recap show. We'll go over our best bets from this past weekend, as well as what we've seen so far with the openers and how we think these lines may move as we get to our show on Friday. We got the encyclopedia here. How you doing today, Connor?
Doing good, doing good. Coming off a little bit of a better week than the week prior.
All right. Well, speaking of that, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go over what we had this past weekend and kick us off.
Well, this is the first week that I can say that I actually loved every single one of my plays, even in hindsight. It was an improved record from the previous week. So went 1-3 the last 2 weeks. Obviously, not something I'm proud of, and I went 2-3 this past weekend. Not something that I'm going to celebrate either. But again, let's go over these 5 plays because I still
Yeah.
liked every single one of them from an analytical perspective. I took Purdue plus 10.5, hosting Illinois. That spread, I think, closed at 7.5 or 8.5 at some other places. I
Yeah, I remember because I was watching it live, and it went from 9.5, 8.5, close 7.5, and Purdue is still taking money down to 7.5. I think it was like minus 120.
Yeah, so I still like that play, and had it not been for a fumble and field goal right before halftime, Purdue would have easily covered had they not and had Purdue not fumbled offensively a couple of times. Who knows how that game could have ultimately gone? Illinois obviously um, probably would have won, but it would have been much closer, and Purdue definitely would have covered that 10 to hook. So I'm perfectly fine with that play. Got on it early. Texas at Florida under 45. Of course, that's the first game total I've taken this season. And of course, the second I get on Texas and Florida, now their two offenses actually look like they have a pulse and the two
Yeah.
defenses. So you can forget about me taking totals from this point forward. I'm
And
not a fan of
UT's
it.
defense was terrible. UT's defense was terrible, and Florida looked like the best team in the country.
Yeah. So of course, the one time I take a total, last year I took one at DDSN with Notre Dame and A&M. Still one of my favorite totals I've ever taken in that cash, but probably no more totals for me. So that and that I still almost cashed that despite everything going wrong for me in that game.
Hmm.
So I still love that play. Cincinnati money line, I talked about it. It was Iowa State's time to finally lose. I know they had some injuries. Some people that were commenting were saying that we were wrong for calling them fraudulent. Our point being was that we thought
Yeah.
Iowa State was overrated and their time was coming. So, however you want to term that, we just felt like it was the right time to fade Iowa State, and we were correct.
Hmm.
Friday show, I took Western Michigan minus 13.5. I thought that over the course of that game, they could slowly but surely cover that. That's exactly what happened. We cashed that.
It was
And then
close though, wasn't it? It was close. The most of the game was pretty close. I
well,
was trying to catch up or keep track of it, and then I kind of didn't really see in the second half what the final score was and how it ended.
so 21-3 final score, Western Michigan.
Oh, okay. So it was just they just scored the first 3 points, right? UMass.
Yeah.
Okay.
That game pretty much flowed how I thought it would. I thought maybe UMass would have or excuse me, I thought maybe Western Michigan would have an additional touchdown just because I thought UMass's defense was that bad. I
Hmm.
thought UMass maybe have 3 to 7 more points, so I thought there'd be a tad bit more points for both teams. But the spread of the game was pretty much how I thought it would go. So and the flow of the game was pretty much how I thought it would occur as well. So love that play. And then one of my favorite plays from this past Friday or from this past weekend on Friday night, could not believe this did not cash. Colorado State team total under 17
Yep.
and a half at San Diego State. I mean, that game got into a scoring fest. I did say that I like San Diego State minus 5.5, but it wasn't
Yeah, and
my favorite play for
I
the
had
game.
the Aztecs. Thankfully, I took the Aztecs there.
I should have just done that. I overthought it, but I still don't mind the play that I took because
Hmm.
San Diego State had pitched two home shutouts to start the season. In fact, it had been let's see, for 10 straight shutout quarters going back to last year at home.
Yeah.
Colorado State's offense is sputtering, and then all of a sudden, Colorado State scores like 10 to 16, 18
I,
points. They went
yeah,
for
well,
two.
I think it was that they had like a 70-yard bomb on a
Yeah, flea
blown
flicker.
coverage, and that was kind of it. And San Diego State had a pretty big lead in the second half, and they kind of took the foot off the gas defensively.
Yeah.
And Colorado State kind of was just like 5 yards at a time, just going down the field. But I thought that was a good play. But San Diego State's offense played so well, the defense was on the field the whole game. So, they couldn't pitch an entire shutout with their offense scoring, at least almost 40 points. So they kind of it kind of got a little gas because the offense was having such a great night.
Yeah. So, and it still took until about midway through the fourth quarter for Colorado State to hit the over on their team total.
Yeah.
And it also took them going like, was it 3 for 5 on fourth down or 3 for 4? They had to score on a 2 point conversion late. Of course, Norvell decides to do that to cash in the over on their team total. So,
Hmm.
John, I still love all 5 of my plays. Despite almost everything going wrong for me, I still finished 2-3. Again, I'm not celebrating that, but when
Long
you look at
season, you got time to make up for it. A lot of those, I mean, that San Diego State one was tough because the offense played so well. The defense was on the field the whole game. And then the Purdue game, I mean, they had control of the game. They fumbled the ball. Illinois doesn't look back, and they just destroy Purdue. Purdue's defense just couldn't
oof,
really get a stop when they needed one. The offense was moving it, but a lot of those receivers they can't catch, and that killed them. So yeah, the Boilermakers probably could have played a little better. They're just not at that level yet, but they've been at a 0, but now they're up to a 1. They're trying to gradually make their way up, improve, but they're going at a slow pace. So
so I don't have any issues with any of the plays that I made.
yeah,
Fortunately, I'm going to be able to tail Louisiana Tech and Southern Miss. Both are now coming off buys for this coming week. I may not have as much for Friday and Saturday, but certainly for Thursday with the Golden Eagles and Bulldogs there. But again, I don't have any issues with the plays that I made. Just a couple bounces of the football did not go my way. I
yeah,
was I was much closer, John, to going 4-1 than I was 1-4, and I just
yeah.
happened to go 2-3. So.
And sometimes that happens. Like you'll have those weeks, and then before you know it, you go 4-1, 4-1 the next couple of weeks. You just have to you got to keep at it and not get into your head too much. And it looks like you're not because you're still, going with your team totals, going with your team. So we'll see how it goes this week, and we'll crush it, get over that hump. And for myself, I went 2-2-1, had a push depending on which number you got on Boise State. If you bet Boise State late, I don't know about Friday, but maybe late Saturday, they got up to 21 and a half, 22-point underdogging against Notre Dame, but they pushed Maddox Matson. Could have had a better game, had 4 interceptions, did not look comfortable. Notre Dame's defense finally looked great, and they end up losing by 21 points, and they could have easily lost by more than that. But I'll take the push, especially in a game where they only scored 7 points. I'll just take the push. No complaints from me. Maryland
Oh my.
Maryland came out of the gates hot as a $2 pistol, up 20-0 at halftime. Washington State scores the next 24 straight points. Maryland doesn't score again. They lose the game outright. That's all coaching. Jed Fish and then Loxley. He's not used to being in that situation. But Maryland looked great. Malik Washington looked good. Washington took Washington Huskies took a little while to kind of get started, obviously. But once they did, that offense was humming in the second half. Still got the cover with Maryland, so happy about that. Michigan State, again, I thought it was going to be a shootout, which it kind of was. Nebraska had they had the momentum for the most of the game. They had control for the majority of the game, but Michigan State was still able to move the ball in that Nebraska defense, like I kind of mentioned on Friday. They get the cover. Aiden Childs may be the one thing that's holding back this Michigan State team. The backup quarterback came in, moved the ball down the field, got the backdoor cover. Childs, I think, had I don't know, at least 2 interceptions, maybe 3 or more. But yeah, he's just not very good right now. He can't protect the football, way too many turnovers. I think if they go to the backup quarterback, Michigan State at least has a chance. I believe who do you know who the Spartans play this week?
Yeah, UCLA.
That's right. That's right. So they're favored by I think 3.5 against UCLA.
Seven and a half.
Maybe more. How much is
Sev-
or what is it?
I think it's 7.5. I'll pull it up.
7.5?
Yeah,
Maybe I was okay. Maybe I'm thinking about the Iowa spread then.
8.5 now at some
Oh
places.
wow, yeah. See, I wouldn't lay that with Michigan State, but it's also a tricky spot for UCLA after a huge win. But again, Michigan State, they can't be trusted to lay more than a touchdown with them. So but that's next week. We'll talk about that on Friday. And then I had Houston, the Houston Cougars. I thought they played a pretty great first half. I they got some bad breaks from the officiating, in my opinion. I think a few of those calls in the first half were a little bit, they probably shouldn't have been called, but I think there was like a roughing call, pass interference call, just a few bailouts, but they forced Texas Tech to kick field goals on their first three possessions, and that they made it into the red zone. Turnovers killed them. Wegman did not play great, and then eventually in the second half, Texas Tech took care of business. I just think that this Houston team is on the right track. They the turnovers and the officiating kind of put them in a little bit of a hole in that first half, but I still don't hate that bet on Houston though. I thought that they were in it, but they just couldn't move the ball in offense. The defense was there, offense didn't help them. And then probably one of the most disappointing uh, games and just flat out Florida State. The Florida State was terrible. I thought that they would play a lot better, but like we talked about pretty much all season. Ohio State, in my opinion, they won the national championship. They have a few players from last year. Until they lose, they're number one to me just for that reason. I believe that to be the champ, you got to beat them. Ohio State hasn't gotten beaten yet, so for me, they're still number one. But right there, number two is going to be the Miami Hurricanes. They're probably the best team in the country right now, pound for pound. And yeah, I wish they had a game with Ohio State, but we may have to wait. May have to wait to the end of the season for that. But I love the way Miami looks right now. They just aren't missing a beat offensively, defensively. They did have a rough second half against Florida State. Florida State almost had a chance to backdoor. Norvell chose to kick the field goal instead of push for a touchdown. Um, it didn't matter at the end of it, but they could have, but they didn't deserve to cover that game. Florida State had no business in that game. The turnovers were bad, and Florida State defense, Miami is just so crisp on offense right now with the speed, the athletes that they have. I mean, to me, they're probably the best team in the country. But again, somebody's got to beat Ohio State first.
You know what's funny, John, is so like the Houston game. I think Houston was a tad bit fortunate to keep it as close as they did.
Yeah,
Um, But what's really funny was that one of the games I don't remember like the games you won and lost outside of that. I remember like the Michigan State game, you ended up having like a backdoor cover. Florida State, you almost had the backdoor cover. I thought by the end of the day, like your record was like pretty indicative of how the game flow went for you with
yeah,
those games collectively. But the games that you won, like you probably should have lost, and the games that you ended up losing, you should have won outside of the Houston game.
mm,
Because I felt like the others was like, huh, like he ended up covering in that game, but not that one. That's kind of weird. Because like Maryland, like you ended up covering there, like, they should have won, so you should have cashed in on your
yeah,
money line there as well. But like the Michigan State Nebraska game, like you covered, but like that game was a scoring fest, and yet there was only like I'm trying to do the math in my head. There was like 500, maybe 450 total yards of offense combined between the two
yeah,
teams. And yet there ended up being that many points. And Michigan State got the weird backdoor cover. Nebraska should not had even been in position to cover, much less themselves. There was just
yeah.
some crazy stuff that occurred this past weekend. And I'm glad we got through it with both of us
Yeah,
improving our
yeah.
records
Like I said,
because
I'll
oof,
take it. Boise State. Boise State was fortunate. Madsen was he had a clean pocket and he would just roll out and just throw something crazy, and he would have guys open. But sometimes that happens. Like Notre Dame's at the end of the day, Notre Dame's a good team. Boise State isn't Boise State from last year. We know that, but the defense played a lot better for Notre Dame, so that was a big deal. But I mean, they still stayed within the number, and that's why sometimes it's important to take underdogs, right, for that reason, and that's why it's tough to play favorites for that same reason because anything can happen, especially you watch these games. And if you bet on these games, no matter how much you bet on them, you see all the little details like, oh, I missed this, oh, they missed this, oh, this. And that's kind of why, at the end of the day, it's kind of beneficial to take those underdogs because of you're getting those points to help for that variance. And it's kind of like that Alabama Vanderbilt game. Did Vanderbilt have a good first half? Yeah, of course. Alabama dominated the second half. They settled for 3 field goals because they were dominating defensively. And then at the end of the game, instead of taking a knee, Alabama runs it. Boom, 30-yard touchdown, cover the spread, backdoors it. And if you have a Vanderbilt ticket, you're like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. But Vanderbilt had no business covering that game in the second half, anyways. But because Alabama kept settling for those field goals, they were still in that within the number. But so that's it's kind of the same thing, except for the favorite side of things. But yeah, that just sometimes that happens, and kind of like with your plays with the team totals. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Florida's dominating Texas and they're scoring touchdowns. We're thinking the Texas defense is the best in the country. They play like the worst defense in the country. Couldn't get a pass rush. I think I read a stat where I don't think they have a sack this season on a power school, power 5 school, power 4 school, whatever they're called. And it showed the Florida offensive line looked like the Miami offensive line. There was no pass rush whatsoever, and you're sitting there with the 42, 45 under ticket, and this Florida team looks like the best team in the country, kind of like Alabama came out of nowhere against Georgia looking like the best team in the country, and now Alabama is probably one of the top 5 teams in the country. Florida has a chance to bounce back just like Alabama has, but they do have how many losses does Florida have? Two
Three.
losses.
Three.
Who did they lose to? South Florida, Miami, and who's the third one? LSU.
LSU. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Um, so yeah, it'll be a little bit tougher for Florida, but if they beat A&M, if they win the rest of their schedule, I mean, they might be able to sneak in the playoff, especially if LSU keeps playing terribly. They'll get bumped out. You have Ole Miss, Tennessee. I don't know Tennessee. But, that's just way down the line. But what I'm trying to say is, it's kind of what what you think's going to happen. Sometimes, like the exact opposite happens, and we had a lot of that this past weekend.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, the only thing that I can say to this season and just kind of say, like, aha, I tried telling you this was chaos because I thought we were going to have chaos towards the top of college football this year, because I didn't think there was going to be like one or two or three standout teams. Now, people could say, well, Ohio State, Miami, Oregon look like the three standouts. Do we know how good Oregon is anymore? Do we? Because
No,
like we had all of these questions coming into the season and they
we
were
still haven't played anybody.
apparently not based on Penn State, right? Now, here's the thing I will say that I'm surprised about. Like towards the top of college football, if you told me that Clemson, Penn State, and Texas would all be three of the bigger underachievers in college football, that
Hmm.
I would have been surprised about. Because
And Florida. I had high hopes for Florida, coming into this season, and they dropped those 3 games, and then they looked like the best team in the country against Texas, which Texas is a whole other thing because how good is Texas? We don't know. We may find out on Saturday, but it's a rivalry game. So if they win, it's not very surprising. But if Oklahoma puts it to them, Texas may be in trouble the rest of the season.
the one thing I'll say about the rivalry, so obviously, there's the rival game aspect to it where you
Yeah.
normally don't have blowouts. So that's the first part of it. Second, what you were just saying about Florida, John, at least you have an excuse with the Gators. They were not healthy to start the season. Now
Yeah.
we as the public were trying to find out. I even did an interview with Graham Hall, who covers Florida, does a really good job for them through the summer, and I was trying to ask those questions about how healthy is DJ Lagway. I nor anyone really got a straightforward answer about it, and Graham Hall didn't really know for like
Hmm.
a fact how healthy Lagway was either. So that was something that was kind of being hidden from the public. And then we saw Florida the first few games of the season. Their offense looked atrocious. Defense kept them in games. And then now they looked a little bit healthier against Texas. And then we finally saw what Florida could have been to start
Yeah.
the season. So now does Florida take that and run away with it? And do they finish
They did
8-4
last
or
year. They
so?
did last year.
Yeah. So I mean, nothing would shock me in the SEC because I expected pure chaos in the
Mhm.
SEC. I did not expect there to be any 7-1 or better teams in conference play.
Yeah.
So we'll see in regards to who ultimately comes out of the juggernaut of the SEC from top to bottom
Mhm.
or from top to almost bottom. Poor Kentucky, John. Are they? They're probably going to finish winless in SEC play, right?
Yeah, they would have to. I mean, especially because I would imagine Calzada's not going to play the rest of the season. They're going to let this freshman get reps in. Because if Calzada, I believe, didn't play against Georgia, I know he didn't start.
I did not get eyes on that game.
Okay, so I don't think if he didn't start, I don't think he played. But I don't know that for a fact though. I just know he didn't start. So I think they just want to give him reps. But yeah, I don't see Kentucky. Maybe. No. I mean, yeah, I don't think so.
Because like one game that we were looking at in the preseason, it's like, you know what? If they can take care of business in the non-conference, they show up against Louisville
Yeah.
in rivalry week, and then they can maybe win at Vanderbilt. They can sneak in another win in there. It's like, hey, they can maybe get to 6-6 if everything goes right.
Hmm.
Well, here's the fact of the matter: Kentucky is falling further and further behind the rest of the SEC in talent. So the games that were once winnable if things go right are now less winnable. So
Yeah.
now you have to be like on top of the world, or at least the college football world, in terms of luck. So winning the turnover battle 4-0, so stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be really difficult for them just to pick up a single SEC win. Now they play at Auburn, they host Florida, I believe they host Texas, they host
I'm not too.
Tennessee.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not too sure about their schedule.
So like they're just not where they need to be. Like,
Mm-mm.
honestly, I had them power rated last in the SEC going into the season, and I stand by that. I think Arkansas and Mississippi State have a little bit more juice to them. Now, do
Yeah.
I think that those three teams are that great? No. Do I think they're going to be ranked by the end of the season in any sort of fashion? No. But I think Kentucky is the worst of those three. So,
Yeah, no, I agree, and a lot of that it has to do with everything with Kentucky, but no, I agree with that. I don't think they're gonna get another SEC win. Maybe beat Louisville, but SEC win, I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna happen. Anything else stand out to you this past weekend?
well, I mean, we haven't really talked about it yet. UCLA beating Penn State. I
UCLA,
mean, goodness
mighty, they
gracious.
took down mighty Penn State. Those. I mean, Penn State's out. Was I shocked to see it? Yes. Am I surprised? No, not really. I mean, Penn State's Penn State. They always have been. They're a brand. They've never really done anything. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by it.
And thinking all going back actually to my previous comment about the bottom teams in the SEC, is South Carolina part of that bottom? I guess we're going to truly find out
I
this
guess
weekend
we'll
once that
find
is
out on
true.
Saturday.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
as of right now, I would put them, with Arkansas, Mississippi State,
Because
Kentucky.
who
I
did
have
who did they play? Who did they play week before last?
they played Missouri, Vanderbilt.
They won pretty easily. I just can't think about who they beat. Was it? Um, I'm not too sure. I know they beat somebody fairly easily last time they played because they had a
Oh,
bye last week.
Kentucky.
Oh, it was Kentucky. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so Kentucky to
And
me
somehow
is
they were only a 5.5 point favorite that game as well. So that tells you how much the market thinks of South Carolina
yeah,
as
it's
well.
it's going to be a long year for Kentucky. And honestly, like South Carolina is not going to have it easy either. I think South Carolina has an uphill battle to make a bowl game as well, actually.
Yeah,
Now, I think South Carolina's chances of making a bowl game are certainly higher than Kentucky. But I mean, South Carolina still has Beamer ball, so they can still, force a few turnovers, score on
yeah,
special teams. But Kentucky, they just don't have any juice, man. Like,
yeah.
honestly, like I'm kind of clapping my hands with Kentucky if they're only down by a couple touchdowns late in the second half.
Yeah, I mean they scored what they scored 21 points against Georgia, and I think they lost by 21. So I mean they kept it close. So they're not god awful, they're not terrible, but at least there's a little at least they're competing some because I think at one time Georgia was up like 21-14 maybe.
They lost 35-14. Like the market was right
Oh,
on with
okay.
this
So they
game.
only scored 14. Okay.
Like their team total was 13 and a half. They cashed it in late, obviously. The
Yeah.
spread was 21. Georgia's team total was like around 35, maybe it was like 34 and a half or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So I mean that game literally occurred just as most people thought it would. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing special for Georgia, but I mean Kentucky is just not in the place to win those kind of games
Yeah, not at
anymore,
all.
to be honest with you.
Not at
But like
all.
but like you're saying, like, they're not awful. Like, from a national perspective of other power conference teams,
Mhm.
they are better than probably a handful, if not several of the ACC bottom teams,
Yeah,
but they're not in the ACC, they're in the SEC, and how many
exactly.
of the SEC like, the Mississippi States, the Arkansas, I mean, maybe even Kentucky to an extent could win some games in the
Yeah.
ACC, but just not in the SEC.
Yeah, no. What else stood out to you this week? Though I mean, I went over Maryland, Texas, the Texas game, Miami game, Texas Tech. This is I mean, we knew that they had college football playoff expectations. It's kind of looking like, that they're one of not only the strongest teams in the Big 12, but maybe even the country right now.
Oh, I totally agree with you. They are decisively the best team in the Big 12. It's not even close right now.
Yeah.
They're going to be favored in every single one of their remaining games. Their closest spread is going to be at Arizona State, I would presume. They're
It's
probably
it's
going to
uh, it's
be,
in Tempe.
yeah.
Okay.
They still have to play Kansas State on the road, but um, their last game of the regular season, I believe, is in Morgantown, West Virginia, but West Virginia is in a rebuild season. Now, by then, West Virginia might have a pulse because I know they're just not healthy at all right
Yeah.
now, which doesn't help their case, but it's still sort of a transition year for the Mountaineers. But yeah, Texas Tech, they are for real. Like when you think of the best Texas Tech teams, you think speed, flash, offense, and
Yeah.
opportunistic, maybe defense at best. They're I'm not saying that they cannot throw the football. They clearly can if you watch their games, but they are built at the line of scrimmage and they are physical. They are
Yeah.
physical over finesse. So, like, they pride themselves on physicality. So that defensive line is one of the country's best. I would argue maybe second best after Miami's. So yeah, it's a legit team. Now I do still have questions at corner. I don't think their secondary is like lights out like Ohio
Mhm.
State's. Like Texas has a better secondary than Texas Tech, but
Oh,
Texas Tech has a better
maybe.
defensive line than Texas, which is kind of crazy to say after just a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. But actually, just after a year ago, like Texas Tech completely rebuilt their defensive line,
Mhm.
actually reloaded through the portal. So, yeah, Texas Tech, to summarize, John, they are nationally legit. Um,
Yep.
and I think that because of what Texas Tech is this year, the Big 12 is capable of making a little bit of a run in the college football playoff. And I would not have said that just a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about it. If they finish the season undefeated, which that may be a very high possibility, they'll get one of those 4 seeds, which is a bye, and they'll have to beat Arizona State and then win the Big 12 championship. But yeah, I mean, if they could get that bye, then anything could happen, really.
They might be facing one of the teams out of the American, and I'm wearing a North Texas jacket right now. We'll talk about that UNT South Florida
Yeah,
game
big
later
game,
on this
big
show. Yeah.
game. Might as well jump into it. Unless do you have anything else from this past week you want to go over?
Um, a quick update on our preseason win totals. Every single one of
Oh,
them is looking fantastic, actually.
except for UTSA. Oh, I
Oh,
mean, I couldn't believe that they got beat by Temple. I think they got outscored 27-3 in the second half, somewhere around there off the top of my head. What a nightmare for UTSA right now.
yeah. So with our conference futures, Let's see. I know we placed a little bit on UTSA. Trying to think what else we did. Is that it for conference futures?
Southern
Oh,
Miss.
Southern Miss, right,
Yeah,
long shot.
Sun
Yeah,
Belt.
that's actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna hedge that because I still think JMU and Old Dominion are the 2 best teams. They play each other in a
Mhm.
couple of weeks. They'll play at James Madison. That'll be like the game of the year in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Winner of that is probably going to win the Sun Belt championship because I don't think the West Division at the top is as good again as those 2 teams. But I think Southern Miss has an outside shot for sure. Probably better than an outside shot now to win the West Division now that Texas
Mhm.
State just lost to Arkansas State
Yeah.
in the game that they
Oh, that I
absolutely
yeah, I
blew.
couldn't believe that,
Yeah.
but it's typical Texas State, man. GJ Kinney, he's kind of just built a reputation as, you know, beating UTSA and then doing nothing else. I mean, I like him, but the past 2 years have been well, this year's not over, but last year after they beat UTSA, they really didn't do anything else the rest of the season.
Yeah. So in regards to all of our preseason futures, not just win totals, so obviously Clemson did not go anything close to as planned for anyone's prediction for Clemson.
Yeah.
So that win total is already gone. Um, and then yeah, the UTSA American future is looking like complete trash right now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not good, not good. They would have to I mean, I don't really know the American standings right now, but I mean, that was their first game and they lost, and now they play Rice. They host Rice, and I believe they're a third. Now they're a 13-point favorite, and a lot of UTSA fans are wanting to go the other direction. So the Rice Owls,
yeah, so like
betting wise.
UTSA's conference schedule does not look as manageable as it did in the preseason, and that
Yeah,
has everything to do with UTSA. Like, that doesn't really have to do with their opponents as much. Like, UTSA is just not as good as I thought they were gonna be, especially offensively, because I didn't think they were gonna be special defensively. I thought they were
yeah,
gonna be one of the best G5 offenses in the country, and that's just not the case. They are an
no,
average team. Like, they're not bad, they're not anything great, and
yeah.
it takes like, there's not many G5 leagues that I look at and say, "Wow, like, the top of that conference is really, really good." Like, I think JMU and Old Dominion at the top of the Sun Belt are really good. I think Boise is in a class by themselves in the Mountain West, obviously, but I don't think anyone else in the Mountain West is that good. I don't think anyone in the MAC is.
what do you okay, there's Boise, but what do you think about New Mexico and San Jose State?
They're
No?
okay. I mean, nothing
Yeah,
special. They're not like juggernauts where I look at them and say, "Wow, they're different." Like it's
yeah.
going to take A+ effort and a little bit of luck to beat them.
What about
That's not the
UNLV? We keep writing off this UNLV Rebels team, and they keep shutting us up at week after week.
and they scored on 2 block punts or 2 special teams
Oh,
touchdowns
really?
against
I mean, I
Wyoming.
didn't. I was keeping up with the score. I didn't watch the game. Yeah. I mean, UNLV. What are they? 5-0.
Yep, 5
Yeah.
and 0. But, like, their opponents are just not that good. Wyoming's the best team that they played so far, and it took a couple of special teams touchdowns. It took Beamer ball to make that score look a little bit better.
Oh, is
So,
that what it was? Okay.
look,
Because
maybe
yeah.
UNLV is slightly better than I thought they were entering the season, but it's not like we were looking at this team as, huge regression and
Uh
they're
huh.
going to suck. We were still looking at them as one of the better Mountain
They
West teams.
upgraded at they upgraded their head coach. Well, it depends. It depends. I like Barry Odom, but
Same here.
he's a much better defensive coordinator than a head coach. But at least he's got Purdue on the uptick. But they definitely upgraded in the quarterback department with Colin Drea.
So, yeah,
I
but that
liked him
team,
at Virginia, but
yeah, I think UNLV is a good G5 team, a good. I don't think they're anything special. So now, that being said, are we really that high on anybody else in the Mountain West outside of Boise?
I
Not
don't know.
really.
I uh, San Jose State was impressive on Friday, yeah. I mean, New Mexico, they still I don't think they're that good defensively. San Jose State, I don't know, they could be like I think one of those two teams they could pose a threat to Boise, but we'll see what happens. And like I said, UNLV, they keep chugging along. So I think the Mountain West race is a little bit more interesting than I think people are, you know, I don't think people are paying too much attention to that race though, which they
Yeah.
should. I think it's pretty good for the G5.
Oh, I definitely thought like because I had that G5 superlative post in the preseason, and I put out
Fresno State as well.
yeah, they've looked good since week 0.
Yeah,
Um, but I had that superlative post, and on that post, I talked about like pronounced tier rankings for each G5 league. Number
yeah,
1, I had the American. So what that list means is how much better is your top tier than to your middle tier to your bottom tier. So like how pronounced are your tiers within your conference? The
mhm,
less pronounced they are, the more chaos there's going to be because the the less pronounced the tiers are, that means the more unsure we are how good each team really is or how much better one tier is from the next.
uh-huh.
In the American, it's pretty clear. Like even coming into the year, like even though a lot of people, including me, have been wrong about UTSA, it's still clear that there is a in the American that there is a top tier and a bottom tier and really a middle tier as well. That's what made me put the American number 1 in pronounced tier rankings. And then last, I had I had 4 and 5. I had the Mountain West and Conference USA. I don't remember which one I had 4th and
Uh-huh.
5th, but it's because like I know Boise's a juggernaut, but you throw out Boise. Is anyone else that much better or worse than one another in either of those conferences? Like
Yeah, no, not really. They're all right there. Even the teams that aren't very good, they still um San Diego State, there's another one. They're all, I guess who I'm trying to think of the worst teams in Mountain West.
Nevada.
Probably Nevada, Wyoming, um, Utah State.
Even they have a pulse and they're pretty good against the number so far this year.
Really?
So
Okay. Well,
like
there you
that's
go.
like that's
And
the
and you
point.
and then you still have Hawaii, which every Hawaii game comes down to a field goal, so, they're, like, right there with the top tier, but they're not there yet, but they're much, improved.
And like I know people are probably tuning in like, "Hey, isn't this guy supposed to be like really high on Louisiana Tech and Conference USA?" I love Louisiana Tech's defense. And because I think every other team sucks in Conference USA for the most part outside of maybe the Western Kentucky passing
Uh-huh.
attack, then I'm just going to keep riding Louisiana Tech because they are literally undefeated against the spread. And that was one of my superlatives. I love
Yeah.
the Louisiana Tech defense. But you know what? If Louisiana Tech didn't have a great defense, like if it was just decent or good, they
Mhm.
wouldn't be anything special either because their offense is not one of the worst, but it's nothing better than middle of Conference USA.
Yeah.
It's just average. So, like, the thing is, like, this year in 2025, maybe outside of Ohio State's defense and talent wise, you could say some other teams' position
Mhm.
groups stand out, like the Texas Tech defensive line, the Texas secondary. I know they didn't perform great against Florida, but there are some position groups that stand out when you look at them coming off the bus, right? But
Yeah.
everyone else, they just kind of suck. Everyone's in a I don't know who we are kind of year.
Yeah.
Everyone's either in a transition year, a rebuilding year, a down year. So I'm sure each fan base is going to try to back up their own team, right? Like no one likes being called with their team that they're in a rebuilding year. I
Yeah.
get it. But point being, it's a down year of college football. No one's that great.
Well, let us okay, so speaking of that, how legit nationally do you think I know we're high on them, and I've been high on them all season. The Virginia Cavaliers. Is
Yeah.
it time they start getting a little respect nationally because, okay, they beat Florida State at home, that, they just got killed by Miami. So how legit is Florida State? Okay. And then they go on the road and beat Louisville. Game goes to overtime. They still won. So I don't know what their schedule looks like. I don't have it in front of me, but you got to think that this Virginia team, there's no Clemson. They've already beaten Florida State. They're at the top there with Miami, and I'm not too sure who else is at the top of the ACC right now. But I think Virginia should start getting some respect nationally, though.
Yes. So, John, I was this close. I mean, literally that close from firing away on a bunch of Virginia futures.
Uh huh.
The only thing holding me back from firing away on the Cavaliers in 2025 was Tony Elliott because I just like he hasn't been any good to this point in his career. But I'm thinking, my gosh, if there was ever a year for Tony Elliott and Virginia to make noise, it's this season. They
Yeah.
brought in a bunch of guys in the portal, but mind you, it was the winter portal. They got a
Mhm.
bunch of players early on. They actually spent a little bit of money for whatever money or amount of money that Virginia has in football. They spent it in the early goings of the portal, so
Mhm.
they didn't get the worst of the talent in the portal. So they didn't like Syracuse firing away in the
Yeah.
spring because they were in panic mode trying to get guys to fill in their roster. As we've seen, they're not very good outside of a couple guys that have gotten hurt since week 3, week 4. But Virginia actually got in some decent talent. Their schedule is the most manageable schedule that they've had in forever. And
Mhm.
they've already played the two most talented teams that they're going to face on their schedule in ACC
Yeah.
play. And like the non-conference is easy. They do have to play at Duke, who is currently trending up in the ACC themselves. Like
Yeah, they handled what they beat Cal by about 20 points on the road.
yep, after getting off to a slow start, they just absolutely settled in and played amazing in the second half of that game.
Mhm.
Like Duke actually looked like a real team in the second half. Like, wow, this team is actually playing some real football right now. I know
Yeah.
Cal's nothing special, but still,
Yeah.
Duke did that on the road, traveling across the country and did start off slow and kind of predictably so based on that travel.
Yeah.
John, I had a post earlier in the summer about the ACC schedules this year and how weird that they are. Like there's a
Mhm.
number of teams with manageable schedules. Georgia Tech, Virginia, those were my two double take teams for the ACC this year. Um, Duke has a relatively manageable ACC schedule. And we thought coming into the year, Clemson and North Carolina did, but North Carolina turns out to suck, and Clemson's been one of the three most underachieving teams along with Texas and Penn State. So yeah,
Yeah.
the ACC is pure chaos, and Miami at this point is probably going to play for the ACC title. But after that, I don't know. Georgia Tech, Virginia, Duke, you name it. I don't know. Florida State, are they still in it? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and Wake Forest, good win. But yeah, I just think, I mean, Virginia should get some respect nationally. Um, and they're on a collision course with Miami for an ACC championship game. So we'll see how that goes. I'd love to see that. Do they play Miami this year in the regular season?
Oh, good question. I'll pull it up.
Because I know that they have an easy schedule, but I don't know if they have. I think Clemson was their tough game.
So
Florida
Duke,
State. Okay, go ahead.
their next three ACC games are challenging. They host Georgia Tech, they play at Clemson, and then they host Virginia. So
Wait. Who's at Miami?
this is Duke.
Oh, Duke's schedule. Okay.
Yeah, Miami, I mean, they've got it pretty easy actually moving forward. They host Louisville. They have a bye this coming week, and then they host Louisville. They host Stanford. They're at SMU, host Syracuse, host NC State, at Virginia Tech, and then at Pittsburgh, who I think they finally found their quarterback, Pittsburgh. So that's good to see. But I mean, they've got pretty much all the worst teams there. So,
Oh, Pittsburgh moved on from Stein or something.
oh, Hol, hang on,
Holtz,
Holstein,
Holtzberg, Holstein.
yeah, something like that.
Wait, that's who they moved on from, or they started playing.
So, oh my gosh, hang on, let me pull it up. My computer's glitching right now. I'm trying to pull up Pittsburgh and their statistics, but every single time I pull up statistics, it goes to Duke's statistics. Okay, Pittsburgh. So yeah, Eli Holstein. That was their starting quarterback coming into the year, but he was.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats say that he was okay, but he had a ton more turnover worthy plays. At this point in the season, Eli Holstein has thrown 11 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but I mean, he's probably thrown 15 or 20 passes that could have been intercepted. And so they threw in the true freshman this past week against Boston College, and he was 33 of 45 for 360 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
Wow, and
Now,
they won like 40 something to 0, right?
I think BC scored late, but yeah,
Oh, they did. Okay.
yeah. But I mean, Boston College doesn't look that
That's huge
great.
because
So
that's the one thing Pittsburgh's been missing since Pickett is a quarterback. They've had a defense. They had defense last year. And what do they have? Just the loss to Louisville so far?
Pittsburgh,
I
let's
think I
see.
think so because they've only played like two MAC schools, Louisville and BC. I think.
So Pittsburgh, they beat Duquesne, they beat Central Michigan, they lost at West Virginia.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. The West Virginia lost, and then they lost to Louisville.
they choked against Louisville, yeah, and then they killed Boston College this past weekend. Pittsburgh's schedule, though, unfortunately for them, is a little bit more challenging than some of these other ACC
Yeah,
teams we just previously mentioned. They have
that's
to
right. I
play
forgot about the West Virginia game.
They play at Florida State, then at Syracuse. They host NC State. They're at Stanford. Bye week, they host Notre Dame. But then, oh my gosh, the last two games at Georgia Tech, host Miami. So
Yeah, that is a rough schedule for, especially for a freshman quarterback.
yeah, I mean, they should beat Syracuse and Stanford. But like,
Well, let's go. Do you have anything else for this past weekend?
um,
That's pretty much everything that I had. The games and teams that I wanted to go over.
One last little thing. So
Go ahead.
similar to
Yeah.
UTSA losing to Temple in kind of surprising fashion. I know we've got a Temple enthusiast who joined, who listened to the show on Friday. Was talk. I'm happy for him. Like that, I have nothing against Temple.
Yeah,
You and
but
I, John.
he has UTSA over 7.5 though, Andrew.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, so he was sweating that one out yesterday or Saturday.
Oh, yeah. I can understand the win total, but yeah, with UTSA, like if you're gonna play UTSA in the future in the American, just do it from a conference future because they always start the season off slow, and their non-conference schedule is pretty tricky
They
most of the
usually,
time.
yeah, it's
So,
usually tough.
but yeah, what was I gonna say? Okay, so in another similar kind of surprising result, this
Uh-huh.
kind of got overlooked because of all the chaos that occurred this past weekend. Did you see that Ball State beat Ohio?
I did because
Man.
um I was thinking about it from whenever we had talked about it on Friday. I was like, "Oh, what do you think about Ohio? They're laying 14," and you were saying that, well, you can't trust Ohio's defense. I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, well, I'm definitely staying away from this game." Not that I was going to bet Ohio, but just for whoever was listening. Um yeah, they were up 14-0 early, and then it got close, and then Ball State kind of ran away with it, didn't they?
So at halftime, Ohio was beating Ball State 14 to nothing. And then third quarter, it's like Ball State just kind of creeps back into the game. And then the fourth quarter, they score a touchdown. Ball State scores a touchdown. Then they force a
Mhm.
safety, and then they get like a late touchdown. And the next thing you know it, there's like a minute and a half left, and here's Ohio with the football down by 6, needing to score a touchdown to win the game, just simply to
Yeah.
win against Ball State to beat Ball State. So I mean that in the UTSA Temple game. I know the UTSA spread was only like 6.5, but those two results were pretty surprising for me.
And like I said, Friday, I wanted nothing to do with that UTSA game. I would have been happy if they would have won by 1 point, but no way I'm laying 6.5 with UTSA right now. And same thing, laying 13 points at home against, even if it is against Rice, it's just they're just not coming off of a bye week. Yeah, the all the UTSA fans, alumni, they got pitchforks, and they're ready for something to change. And Traylor said today that he's still going to start Owen McCown, which again, I watched the first half. McCown looked fine in the first half. I didn't watch the second half, and I think that's when everything went to hell. But yeah, I they've got some issues they got to take care of.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty surprising for a team that if there was to be a transition year in the Jeff Traylor era, you thought it would have been last year at the beginning of the season, and
Yeah,
it showed. They played really well down the stretch and returning 10
and
starters
it should have been
offensively.
a rebuilding year last year, but this year
Whew.
it's not good.
Yeah, and that's not a good look for them. But you know what, John? You and I are kind of KC Keeler enthusiasts for Temple, so we might
Yeah.
have some Temple futures for next year. We'll see.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, once he gets another recruiting class in, depending on how much they lose, because I know he did bring over some Sam Houston players. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into next week, and you go ahead and kick us off because I know you've got some games lined up that you like. We won't go through all of the whole schedule, but we'll just go through like the opening lines that kind of stood out to us. I know Connor's got some plays, especially for some Thursday, Wednesday, early midweek games. So go ahead, kick us off.
So, DDSN Nation, you know my two sicko mode teams this year, Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech. And you best believe that getting these teams below key numbers at with these respective futures, I'm going to go ahead and fire away because didn't get the chance for that this past week because both teams were on buys. But now we have the opportunity to tail the Golden Eagles and Bulldogs again. So let's go. So Southern Miss plays at Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern has been bad defensively so far to start the season. So give me Southern Miss -2.5 on the road. I think they are the outright better team, both offensively and especially defensively. And then give me the Southern Miss team total over 30.5. You can find that at DraftKings right now. What I'm finding with these team totals is no matter what the numbers open up at, they typically get bet up like a full point by the end of the week. So
Mhm.
I would jump on the number now because it's probably going to close at 31.5. So get that below that key number. I think Southern Miss should score on Georgia Southern, just like I almost fired away with Southern Miss against Jacksonville State 2 weeks ago, and I should have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like Southern Miss -2.5 at Georgia Southern and the Southern Miss team total over 30.5. Georgia Southern has not stopped anybody this season, at least of their FBS opponents so far. They let Jacksonville State score on them, so I know Southern Miss is going to score on Georgia
Yeah.
Southern. And then now let's go to Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech plays at Kennesaw State. Both teams coming off of buys. So again, this is going to be on the road on a Thursday night, just like the Southern Miss game is. Right now, I think the best price you can find with Louisiana Tech against the spread for this game is -6.5, like -112 juice, maybe at either BetMGM or DraftKings. So shop around for the best price, but I am laying the points again with Louisiana Tech -6.5. They are currently undefeated against the number. So until they prove to me otherwise, I'm going to keep riding the Bulldogs. I don't think that, especially their defense, has been properly priced yet, especially for a Conference USA team that wasn't given a whole lot of love coming into the season. And
Mhm.
so we're also going to ride that Louisiana Tech defense specifically. So again, Louisiana Tech -6.5 at Kennesaw State, but I'm also going to take the Kennesaw State team total under 20.5. Now, this was available earlier at a better price at DraftKings, but at DraftKings, you can tease team totals. So right now it's listed at 19.5. Kennesaw State's team total is at a better price, but you can tease it up to 20.5. I would wait until later in the week, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, to see what Kennesaw State's team total is. Because again, like I said, those team totals typically get bet up for whatever reason. Like I didn't get the Colorado State movement. I know I lost that, but from a betting
Mhm.
perspective, I didn't get that movement. A couple weeks ago, I won when I took the New Mexico State team total under, or not New Mexico, yeah, New Mexico State team total under against
Mhm.
Louisiana Tech. I didn't get that movement. That one cashed, and that was against Louisiana Tech. So I would wait to see if you can get a better price on this, better number. It might move up to 20.5 at a better price. But for right now, it's currently at 19.5, shaded to the over. So again, wait. I already fired away at Kennesaw State's team total under at 20.5 when it was at a better price earlier today. So I went on a tangent there. So my four best bets there, folks: Southern Miss -2.5 at Georgia Southern, and Southern Miss team total over 30.5, and then Louisiana Tech -6.5 at Kennesaw State, and then the Kennesaw State team total under 20.5. I would wait for that number though.
All right, there you go. So, what is the Kennesaw State team total right now?
Right now it's 19.5. I don't mind that under, obviously, but for some reason these team totals always get bet up a point by later in the week.
Yeah.
So there might be a tad bit more money coming in on Kennesaw State, which would, because they're currently getting juiced to the over at their team total. The
Uh huh.
spreads kind of stayed though at 6.5. So if you want to wait for a 6 later in the week, you might find it might get bet up to 7 or 7.5. So that's
Yeah.
why I went ahead and fired at 6.5. But I would wait for the team total because it might close at 20.5.
Okay.
So I don't hate it under 19.5, obviously, but I could see a final score here of like 28-13 or so.
Mhm.
Kennesaw State, this is by far and away the best defense that they would have played up to this point. So, and they've been scoring like in the mid 20s. So I would expect them to move the ball a little bit better than what UTEP did against Louisiana Tech. Maybe
Yeah.
Louisiana Tech's defense is for real, but I mean, Louisiana or UTEP only scored 11 points, and it took to the very end to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion against Louisiana Tech. Kennesaw State might have a field goal or a touchdown more than that, but I would be surprised if they got over that 20-point threshold.
Okay. All right. Good. I don't have anything official yet. I usually wait till Friday. But there are some lines that did pop out to me. Oklahoma +3. I'm assuming Hawkins. I think it's Andrew Hawkins is going to start for Oklahoma. So I'm going to grab the +3 here. They got killed last year by 60 points. I want to say close to that against Texas. I think has had this game scheduled and circled rather, and I think the Sooners are going to come in and get a little bit of revenge on the Longhorns. I don't know if UT can turn it around. Their defense was manhandled, and now they're going to go against one of the best defenses in the country. So I don't know if that offensive line is going to be able to hold up. I don't know if Arch Manning's going to be able to hold up behind that offensive line. It's going to be a huge step up, and it's definitely. I mean, Florida looked great, but Oklahoma is going to be the best team they've seen so far this season, no matter who's at quarterback, especially on the defensive side of the ball for the Sooners. So I would take the 3, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, I think OU is going to win outright, so it doesn't really matter where this number lands. Um, Maryland getting 6.5 points again. I like Maryland at home against Nebraska. Nebraska's still taking money. I just don't like their defense. And what can this Maryland team do? They can throw the ball. They can move the football. I think they kind of, you know, I think they might have gotten their confidence up against Washington, and then it kind of got destroyed. But this will be the game that sets them and gets them right back on track in the Big Ten. I think they'll beat Nebraska, like kind of like we talked about Iowa State. We may have been a week too early on Maryland for the outright. I think they get it here against Nebraska. You could either wait on this number, take 6.5 now, or wait for it. But I think Maryland gets it done at home. Oregon against Indiana. Money's coming in on Indiana. I'd wait till the end of the week and fire in on Oregon. This is probably the best team that Indiana's had to play the last 2 years, aside from Ohio State. And this time it's going to be on the road. Ohio State game was a home game for Indiana last year, wasn't it?
It was at Ohio State.
It was at Ohio State. Okay, so this is going to be another tough road game, and we saw what happened last year. And Indiana may have had a better team last year. And again, they struggled against Iowa on the road. May happen again against Oregon. This number, I believe, was at 8, and it's down to 7.5. Indiana's still taking money. Like I said, I'll wait and fire in on Oregon. I just think Indiana's going to be overmatched, kind of like they were last year against Ohio State. Um, the other number that stood out to me was Arizona State +5.5. They're at Utah, and what do I always say? If Arizona State's getting more than a field goal, you might as well take the Sun Devils because this game's going to come down to a field goal. It just happens. I think the last 2 Big 12 games come down to the last second, and it may happen again. I would take the points here again. I have not officially taken these; they just are the ones that stood out to me, and the numbers that stood out to me last week they all cashed, so might as well jump on them now. That was Cincinnati, New Mexico State, and Maryland. And yeah, I like these 4 so far, and I may jump on them now or wait till Friday. But again, as long as Arizona State's getting more than a field goal, I like it. They're definitely getting more than 4 points, so that's something that I would snag. Same thing with Maryland. Even if this goes up to 7, or it could shoot back down to 6. I like the Terps. I think we might have been a week early for the outright. They'll get it here against Nebraska. Also, the Oklahoma game, and then Oregon. I think everyone's going to be betting, taking points with Indiana, just like they did last year. And then Oregon's going to come in off a bye, mind you, and tune them up. So that's what I have so far. Kind of like all those numbers, and I really love Maryland here. But yeah, and we had one comment the other day on one of our videos about my Dylan Raiola hate. I don't hate Dylan Raiola. He just played not so great against Michigan. And I thought Michigan State would cover against Nebraska, and they did because Nebraska's defense is fraudulent. And that's why Maryland's going to take advantage of them. So, but that's what I got.
So to recap, these aren't like locked in as best bets right now, but
Correct.
depending
Yeah.
on movement. So here's what I have right now for you. You're going to be taking likely Oregon minus whatever number that is as of now. I think the best number is
Yeah.
minus 7.5. I think.
That's the last number I saw was 7.5.
And then as of now, Maryland plus 6.5.
Yep.
Arizona State plus 5.5.
Correct.
What else do you have? Is that it?
Oklahoma 3+3.
Right, sir. That's right. OU. And I would assume for Maryland, Arizona State, and Oklahoma, you'd be sprinkling on the money line.
Yeah, I don't know about Arizona State on the money line. I think they might. I think the luck might not luck, but the close games will probably catch up to them against Utah on the road. But I think they keep it close. So I think as long as it's over 3, getting points, I'm happy with that. I don't know if they'll get the outright though.
Um, got you. Let's see. Oh yeah, I did want to bring up one other thing.
Okay,
So North Texas has a huge home
that's
game this
right. Big
Friday
game.
night against the South Florida Bulls. And important to note, the number 24 ranked USF Bulls. So here's what makes this so interesting. The American, now that Boise State has the non-conference loss to USF and another non-conference loss decisively in South Bend to Notre Dame, the American is going to have the G5 representative this season, or the G6, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They're going to have the mid-major representative in the CFP. There's been some talk out there that maybe the American could get 2 teams in. Well, it's kind of like the Big 12 last year. They would have to have everything go right nationally and a little bit more.
Yeah, I think
So
that would actually take a miracle. I don't see that happening.
yeah, you always have to keep in mind of college football politics at the end of the regular season and the polls and exactly the money. TV ratings. So what's going to increase TV ratings? Putting the big boys in there, the big name schools, so the big brands. So, but here's what's really interesting about this game for North Texas. USF has been getting discussed ever since that opening Thursday night of week 1 when they took down Boise State in decisive fashion, I believe 34-7.
Yep.
North Texas has only been on the national radar for a couple of weeks or so now, after they put a whooping on Washington State. Then they won in overtime against Army. They took care of business. I think they had a backdoor cover against South Alabama. And now UNT is coming off of a bye, hosting again USF this coming Friday night. So this is going to be a blackout game in Denton, Texas. So you're going to be seeing a lot of darker colors than normally for the Mean Green. There are
Yep.
some mean green alum that are not too fond of that, but the students are buying in on this theme night
Good.
for UNT. So there should be increased amount of students there. Alumni normally show up for football and basketball. It's the
Mhm.
students that can be a little spotty at times, especially for football. For basketball,
Yeah.
with the Maniacs, they've been pretty good for a few years now. The students have. But yeah, for football, there should be a better showing for North Texas on Friday night. That game is around a pick'em spread. UNT opened up as a favorite, and I think USF has
Last
taken
I
them.
Yeah, I think last I saw South Florida was favored by 1 point.
Yeah, so it's around a pick 'em spread. But if North Texas wins this game, they host UTSA and they host Navy later this season in early November. And it's kind of a trap game for Navy. Of course, it probably won't be because UNT is actually on the national radar now. But going into the season, it looked like that could be a trap game for Navy because they play at Notre Dame the following week.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
here's what gets even more interesting. So it's highly unlikely that this would happen, but there is a slight chance College Game Day could go to Denton, Texas in early November for that North Texas Navy matchup. Why do I say that? Well, for one, obviously UNT would have to win out. But remember, John, we talked about Navy's schedule leading up into that game in Denton. It's
Mhm.
extremely manageable. But when you look all the way to think that's Saturday, November 1st. So some of those bigger matchups that we were looking at in the preseason are not looking like they're going to be what we thought they were going to be. Penn State at Ohio State, Miami at SMU, South Carolina at Ole Miss, Oklahoma at Tennessee. That could be a pretty good matchup.
Yep.
But Texas Tech at Kansas State, like Kansas State hasn't lived up to expectations. Let's see here. I'm trying to go through the list here. Arizona State at Iowa State could be a pretty decent game. But then you go to Navy at North Texas. The reason why I say it could be college game day, well, for one, I just previewed a lot of those top matchups aren't as good as what they were thought to be going into the season. But more importantly, because Boise lost to USF and they lost to Notre Dame, the G5 representative is likely to be out of the American. Well, that could be a big time matchup, and the winner of that game plays potentially for the American title, and then potentially that winner would play on to go to the CFP. That could be the site of college game day, because remember the last time college game day went to an American matchup was when Memphis hosted SMU back in 2019.
Yep.
And those were two like nationally ranked teams, like they were legit squads. Memphis ended up being they weren't the representative in the playoff. We didn't have we had the 4-team playoff, but at that point, the G5 representative or a G5 team had not made the CFP up until that point, but they played Penn State in the near six that year. Memphis did. This is a similar big time matchup between potentially two undefeated teams. So folks, that's something to keep on your radar. November 1st, if North Texas is undefeated at the time, if Navy keeps on winning with their manageable schedule up to that point, there's an outside chance, not great chance, because we do have some pretty good matchups, but there's an outside chance that could be the site of college game day. It's never gone to Denton, Texas. So
something to look forward to, especially for yourself.
But North Texas has to beat USF this Friday. So
that's right. It's a big game for both schools. And the Americans kind of shaping up to be, because who's Tulane play on Saturday?
East Carolina. They play on Thursday or Friday, and they play East Carolina.
Okay. So that's a game that they're gonna have to win as well, obviously. But you got Tulane, you have South Florida, you have Navy, and then you have North Texas. They're still trying to vie for that too. That ticket. Who else?
Memphis.
I thought I said Memphis. Okay, yeah, of course, Memphis, who does have a Power 4 win as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a good race to the end, and then they still have to go to the championship and face off for that ticket.
And then there's UTSA. No.
An outside shot. It would take a miracle.
Yeah.
The only positive about UTSA is they only have one American loss. I believe that was their first game was Temple. But it's not looking good. And they got to play Tulane. I don't know if they play Memphis this year. Do they?
They don't play Memphis or Navy. They host Tulane. They host
and they got to go to West Point.
They play at UNT. They play at USF. So they're probably going to be 500 or so in conference play if they keep playing like this. Not
ideal. And when did you say that UTSA North Texas game is?
That is in mid to late October. Let me pull that up.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, it's already October 6th, so that should be here pretty soon.
Yeah, it will be Saturday, October 18th.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, man. So, yeah, North Texas, they've got USF and then UTSA in back-to-back weeks. So they better have their A game. I know UNT is going to have their A game for USF. They are going to be ready against their rival UTSA. You just wonder, back-to-back tough opponents like that. Of course, we'll see how good UTSA is at this point, because they lost to Temple. Like, no one was predicting Temple to beat UTSA. Yeah. So, like, my point being, like, no one had Temple in their top half of the American. So if they take down UTSA, how good is UTSA? I don't know, but it's a rival for UNT. So my point being, like, UNT coming off whatever it happens against USF, they better be ready, because UTSA will be ready.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I agree. Well, that was everything that I had. I want to double check these numbers, and I may fire in on these now Oklahoma, Maryland, Oregon, Arizona State. I can't look at it now, but I'll definitely post your best bets, my best bets from the show, and then yeah, we'll see everyone again on Friday. And good luck to us. We have a couple of, if we like anything for the early Wednesday, Thursday games, we'll post it. But other than that, that's everything that I had. You have anything else to close us out with, Connor?
Um, so remember this past Friday, I talked about the look ahead spot to UNLV against Boise. I haven't
Yeah.
seen any look ahead lines for that, but I'm still looking to fade UNLV in that spot. I had that fade against Iowa State this past weekend. I like that. So
Yeah.
there are so
And this is
there
a
is
Boise home game.
yeah, they're hosting
Okay.
UNLV. Yeah. So UNLV plays the Air Force this week. I'm probably not going to have anything on that game. I'll see. Um, I mean, Air Force's defense is just awful.
Yeah.
But their offense is good. They at least found their quarterback, so maybe Air Force could be sneaky good next year because they normally at least play good defense. So like that's pretty surprising. But anyways, so looking ahead for the future and like teams that I would like to kind of fade,
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to call this team fraudulent because I think they are who they are at this point. They just haven't played anybody good. So they're not as good as maybe their record would indicate,
Uh-huh.
but like what they've shown, like, from an eye test perspective, I think they've been who they are. Like they have an identity, and that's leaning with their offense and leaning on their line of scrimmage play. I
Mhm.
don't think their skill position is all that great, and that's BYU. They haven't really played anyone great up to this point.
I don't like their quarterback.
Yeah, a lot of their yards came after the catch, and that's just because West Virginia doesn't really have the talent in place
Yeah.
this year. By the way, West Virginia, like they did not. They should have never scored 24 points against BYU. So if you had the West
No.
Virginia total team under, I did not, but if you did, bless your
Yeah.
heart because you should
Yeah,
have tapped the under.
BYU didn't they did well, they got a couple linebackers got hurt. But they really didn't play, very tough defense in the second half, and they kind of just try to sit on the ball. But then West Virginia was treating it like, their Super Bowl, and they're pushing, going for it on fourth down every time, pushing it. So yeah, they were able to not only cover late, but like you said, get those points as well.
I mean, that's kind of Rich Rodriguez teams for you. They're kind of like they're scrappy in a way, so you give them credit. They to a degree
Yeah,
they can overachieve at times. They just don't have the talent in place to do much in the Big 12 this
yeah,
year.
no, not right
But
now, no.
like BYU, that was a team that entered the season with a 6.5 win total. It was 7.5, and then the quarterback that went to Tulane
Mhm.
in late June, I believe that news
Yeah,
came out that he was transferring ultimately, that he was going to transfer. Um, at that point, their win total got shaded under to 6.5. And so I remember thinking, okay, BYU was already kind of on my radar of teams that were probably going to regress this year, anyways. But
yeah,
then when I looked on at their schedule, I'm like, you know what? They could start the season off pretty well, but the back half, I'm probably going to want to fade them. Here's the issue with this week against Arizona. So they play at Arizona this
yeah,
Saturday.
that's right.
Like ultimately, like there's going to come a time where BYU is going to get beat by a margin that was not anticipated. I don't know if that's this week because I think right now BYU is a 1.5 to a 2.5 point
Yeah,
favorite.
2.5 was the last I saw.
So like, we're gonna talk about this more on Friday. Maybe that's like a money line sprinkle kind of thing. I
Yeah,
might have like a parlay of like money line sprinkles for this week because I'm probably not gonna have a lot of Saturday plays as of right now. Um,
yeah,
But here's the thing, John. It's kind of like what we talked about 2 weeks ago. Like you took Arizona plus 5.5 for +6 at Iowa State. And I just didn't want to take Arizona. So while I want to fade BYU at some point this year, do I want to do it against Arizona? I don't know. So maybe that's just a money line sprinkle. But for like best bet material, that's probably not going to occur until the week or two afterwards when they start facing Utah and Iowa State
yeah.
and some of the well, and then again, I don't really want to tail Iowa State either, but there's going to come a spot where I want to fade BYU specifically. I'm going to pull up their schedule here.
Yeah, I mean, it might even start with Arizona. To be honest with you, if those linebackers or linebackers aren't playing for BYU, those are going to be pretty huge losses for them.
So yeah, here's the thing. So they play at Arizona. I don't love Arizona, but I don't love BYU. Then they host Utah. I'm probably going to fade BYU in that spot on October 18th. They play at Iowa State. I don't love Iowa State, but by that point, Iowa State might have an additional loss or two. So I might take Iowa State there. At Texas
Mhm.
Tech, I'm probably going to take Texas Tech because remember, I have a future with Texas Tech in their home games this year for one
Yeah.
of their team specials. So I love Texas Tech in that spot. Then they host TCU, does BYU after that game. I'm probably going to take TCU in that game. Then they play at Cincinnati. I'm probably going to take Cincinnati in that game. Then they host UCF. And I would assume because they're 5-0 right now that BYU has already achieved bowl eligibility by then because they're probably going to sneak in a win or two in there somewhere
Mhm.
else. So it depends what their record is. I might fade them in that week as well. I just don't know if I want to fade him against Arizona specifically, but again, money line sprinkle potential, sure.
Yeah.
But I don't have a whole lot for this Saturday. I don't love a whole lot of the matchups this week, and my sicko mode teams are not playing on Saturday; they're playing
Yeah,
on
they're playing
Thursday.
during the week. Yeah.
So, and I hate doing weeknight games, but my sicko mode and my superlatives will
Yeah.
override anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I may not have more than one or two best bets for Saturday. I really may not.
Yeah. No, and that's fine. We'll still have plenty to go over on Friday. But yeah, I mean that's everything that I have. We can go ahead and close it up there. And like I said, I'll post the best bets from both of us, the those lines that we talked about. I'll post that on X. And yeah, let us know if you have any comments, good or bad. But that's everything for us, and we'll see you all on Friday.